She went on a blind date and met the billionaire CEO she once loved. Is this seat taken? Ava Sinclair's voice caught in her throat as the man at the table turned to face her. Ava. Riley James's glass of water froze halfway to his lips, his blue eyes widening in shock. What are you doing here? The restaurant around them seemed to fade away as 10 years of buried emotions crashed through Ava's carefully constructed walls. How could the blind date her friend had arranged be with the man who had abandoned her, the father of her child who had no idea he even had a daughter? I can't do this, she whispered, clutching her purse as she backed away. The exit sign glowed like a beacon of escape, but something kept her feet rooted to the expensive carpet. Riley stood quickly, his chair scraping against the floor. Please don't go. Not again. Again? As if she had been the one to disappear without a trace? As if she had been the one to leave nothing but a 7-word note after 2 years of what she thought was love. I waited for you, Ava said, her voice barely audible over the ambient restaurant noise. I waited until I realized our daughter would grow up never knowing her father. The color drained from Riley's face. Daughter? What are you talking about? Have you ever wondered what would happen if the person who broke your heart suddenly reappeared in your life? What would you say to them? Would you run? Or would you stay and finally get the answers you've been waiting for? If you're already watching our stories regularly, take 1 second right now to hit that like button. It costs you nothing but means everything to us. Not subscribed yet? What exactly are you waiting for? A personal invitation? Well, here it is. And if you're still refusing to join our community after this story begins, at least have the courage to tell us why in the comments below. The restaurant seemed to hold its breath as Riley processed Ava's words. A daughter. He had a child he never knew existed. The revelation hit him with the force of a physical blow, making him grip the edge of the table for support. How old? He managed to ask, though he already knew the answer. The timeline could only mean one thing. 9, Ava replied, watching the calculation happen behind his eyes. Her name is Sophia. A waitress approached their table, cheerfully asking if they were ready to order, completely oblivious to the life-altering conversation happening before her. Riley waved her away without taking his eyes off Ava. Sit down, he said softly. Please, just for a minute. Against her better judgment, Ava slid into the chair across from him. The candlelight between them cast shadows across his face, a face that had once been as familiar to her as her own, now transformed by success and time. The boy she had loved had become a man she barely recognized, except for those eyes. Those same blue eyes that looked back at her every day from her daughter's face. Who set this up? Riley asked, his mind racing to make sense of the impossible coincidence. My friend Casey. She said her husband's friend needed to get out more. Ava's eyes widened with sudden realization. Rowan. Rowan Blake is your friend? Riley nodded slowly. But he had no idea about our history. This is fate? Ava suggested bitterly. I stopped believing in fate the morning I found your note. The memory of that day still had the power to steal her breath. The cold sheets beside her, the 7 words that had shattered her world. I have to do this on my own. I thought I was doing the right thing, Riley said, running a hand through his hair. A gesture so achingly familiar, it made Ava's heart contract. I had nothing to offer you then. No money, no stability, just big dreams and bigger risks. That wasn't your decision to make, Ava replied, her voice breaking slightly. We were partners. We were supposed to face everything together. Riley leaned forward, his eyes pleading. If I had known about Sophia, you didn't want to know, Ava cut him off. You disconnected your phone. You disappeared completely. Your parents claimed they didn't know where you were. They were telling the truth, Riley admitted. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I thought making a clean break would be easier for everyone. Easier. The word hung between them, loaded with a decade of struggle and sacrifice that had been anything but easy for Ava. How many of us have made decisions thinking we were protecting someone, only to realize later we caused more pain than we prevented? The hardest truth to face is that sometimes our most well-intentioned choices leave the deepest scars on those we love. 10 years earlier, the university campus had buzzed with the energy of finals week. Students hurried between buildings, arms laden with textbooks, futures stretching before them like blank canvases waiting to be filled with color and purpose. Ava Sinclair had been rushing across the quad, late for a study session, when she collided with someone rounding the corner. "I'm so sorry," she exclaimed as her books tumbled to the ground. "Entirely my fault," a deep voice replied. She looked up to find herself staring into the most captivating blue eyes she'd ever seen. The young man knelt to help gather her books, a crooked smile playing on his lips. "I'm Riley James," he said, extending his hand. "Ava Sinclair," she replied, feeling an unexpected flutter in her chest as their hands touched. Neither of them knew in that moment how their lives would become intertwined, how that chance meeting would set in motion events that would echo across a decade. They couldn't have known that the simple act of introducing themselves would lead to love, heartbreak, separation, and an eventual reunion that would test everything they thought they knew about forgiveness and second chances. That first meeting blossomed into study sessions at the library, which turned into coffee dates, which evolved into something neither of them had expected. A love so intense it seemed to redefine everything they thought they knew about connection. "What do you want after graduation?" Riley asked one night as they lay on a blanket on the university lawn, staring up at the stars that seemed to hold all the answers to their unasked questions. Ava turned to face him, memorizing the way the moonlight cast shadows across his features. "I want to build something meaningful, a career where I can make a difference, and someday—" She hesitated, suddenly vulnerable. "A family. What about you?" Riley's eyes shone with ambition and something deeper, something that made Ava's heart race. "I'm going to change the world, Ava. I have ideas, big ones. I'm going to build a company that revolutionizes how people connect. And I want you there with me, every step of the way." "Promise?" she whispered, already half believing in the future he was painting with his words. "Promise," he said, sealing it with a kiss that felt like forever. "We all make promises we intend to keep. We map out our futures with the best of intentions, never imagining how quickly circumstances can change, how easily our carefully laid plans can unravel. What promises have you made that life later forced you to break? What would you give to have the chance to make things right?" For 2 years, they were inseparable. Riley's brilliant mind and entrepreneurial spirit complemented Ava's practical approach and creative thinking. They stayed up late drafting business plans, dreaming of the empire they would build together. Their small apartment became a sanctuary of shared dreams and whispered possibilities. "We're going to be unstoppable," Riley would say, his eyes alight with passion as he outlined his latest idea. Ava believed him with every fiber of her being. Until the morning everything fell apart. She woke up to find his side of the bed empty. At first, she thought nothing of it. Riley often rose early when inspiration struck. But then she found the note on the kitchen counter, the paper slightly crumpled, as if he had second-guessed himself before leaving it there. "I have to do this on my own. I'm sorry." 7 words. That's all he left after 2 years together. 7 words and a shattered heart. Ava called him repeatedly, but his number was disconnected. She went to his parents' home, but they claimed they didn't know where he had gone. It was as if Riley James had vanished into thin air, taking all their shared dreams with him. A week later, still reeling from his disappearance, Ava discovered she was pregnant. "I can't be," she whispered, staring at the positive test in her bathroom. But 3 more tests confirmed what her body already knew. She was carrying Riley's child. Alone and terrified, Ava made the hardest decision of her life. She would raise this baby on her own. She would give her child everything she could, even without Riley by her side. 9 months later, Sophia Sinclair came into the world. A perfect baby girl with her father's striking blue eyes. "It's just you and me now," Ava whispered to her newborn daughter, cradling her close in the hospital room that felt too big and too empty without the person who should have been there to share in the miracle. "And I promise I will never leave you." True supporters don't just watch, they engage. If you're enjoying Ava and Riley's story but haven't liked or commented yet, are you really supporting creators who work tirelessly for you? Subscribers, remember your first click made a difference. Now make another by sharing. Non-subscribers, we see you watching silently. Tell us below why you're hesitating to join our community. The early years were the hardest. Ava completed her degree with Sophia, strapped to her chest, taking notes with one hand while rocking her daughter with the other. The sympathetic glances from professors and the whispered judgments from classmates became background noise as she focused on the only thing that mattered, creating a future for her daughter. She moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment, transforming the living room into her bedroom so Sophia could have the actual bedroom. The walls were thin, the heating unreliable, but Ava filled it with love and determination. "We're going to make it," Ava would whisper each night as she kissed her daughter's forehead, the promise becoming a mantra that carried her through the darkest moments of doubt. Somehow, we're going to make it. She started at the bottom of a marketing firm, working twice as hard as everyone else to prove herself while juggling daycare pickups and pediatrician appointments. There were nights when she collapsed into bed, too exhausted to even cry over the man who had abandoned them. When Sophia was 3, she pointed to a family at the park, a mother, father, and little girl swinging between them, hands clasped tight, laughter floating on the autumn breeze. "Where's my daddy?" she asked innocently, her blue eyes, Riley's eyes, wide with curiosity. Ava's heart constricted. She had prepared for this moment, rehearsed the words in her mind, but it still felt like a knife twisting in her chest. "Your daddy had to go away before you were born," she explained gently, choosing her words with care. "But he would have loved you very much. Will he come back someday?" The hope in her daughter's voice nearly broke Ava. How could she crush that hope without crushing her spirit? "I don't know, sweetheart. But what I do know is that you and I are a perfect team. Just the two of us." As the years passed, Ava climbed the corporate ladder with determination that impressed everyone around her. By the time Sophia was 8, Ava had been promoted to creative director, allowing them to move into a comfortable house in a good school district. "Mom, look what I made," Sophia exclaimed one evening, proudly displaying a family tree project for school. Under father, she had written "unknown hero" with a question mark. "Hero?" Ava asked, her throat tight with emotion she couldn't express. Sophia nodded solemnly. "You always work so hard because he's not here. So he must have gone to do something really important, right? Like a secret mission or something heroic." Ava pulled her daughter close, hiding the tears that sprang to her eyes. "You're the hero in my story, Sophia. Always remember that." Have you ever created a story to protect someone you love from a painful truth? We all craft narratives to make sense of our lives, especially the parts that hurt too much to face directly. But what happens when those protective stories collide with reality? When the unknown hero suddenly appears in the flesh, with explanations and regrets that threaten to rewrite everything you thought you knew? Imagine pouring your heart into content only to have viewers take without giving back. That's how creators feel when you don't subscribe. Our community members understand this. They're commenting right now. What's your excuse? If you're still refusing to join us, at least have the courage to explain why below. While Ava was building a life for herself and Sophia, Riley James was on a different path. One paved with ambition, sacrifice, and eventually, staggering success. The morning he left Ava, he boarded a plane with nothing but a backpack and a laptop containing the code that would eventually become the foundation of his empire. His heart felt like it was being ripped from his chest, but he convinced himself it was the only way. "She deserves better than what I can give her now," he told himself as the plane took off, watching the city where he'd left his heart grow smaller beneath him. "I'll come back when I've made something of myself, when I'm worthy of her." Riley landed in Silicon Valley with $200 to his name and a revolutionary idea for a communication platform that would connect businesses across the globe. He slept on couches, worked 18-hour days, and pitched his concept to anyone who would listen. After 6 months of rejections, he finally found an investor willing to take a chance on his vision. The seed money allowed him to hire a small team and develop a prototype. A year later, James Connect launched to modest success. But modest wasn't enough for Riley. He pushed harder, innovated faster, expanded aggressively. Each time he considered reaching out to Ava, he convinced himself it wasn't time yet. He needed to be more successful, more established, more worthy. By the 5-year mark, James Connect had become James Tech, a multinational corporation valued at over $1 billion. Riley James was featured on the cover of business magazines, hailed as a visionary entrepreneur who had transformed the industry. Yet each night he returned to an empty penthouse apartment, surrounded by luxury but devoid of the only thing that had ever truly mattered to him. "Congratulations on the Forbes cover," his assistant Nora Ellis said one morning, placing the magazine on his desk. Riley barely glanced at it. "Schedule a meeting with the development team. I want to discuss the new security protocols." "You have dinner with the Japanese investors tonight," Nora reminded him. "And your mother called again. She says it's important." Riley sighed. He had been avoiding his parents' calls for weeks. They were the only ones who knew about Ava, about the real reason he had left so suddenly. The guilt and shame were too much to face. "Tell her I'll call this weekend," he said, knowing he probably wouldn't. That night, as he charmed investors over expensive wine, a young woman approached their table. "Mr. James, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say that your platform changed my life. I was able to start my business because of the connections I made through James Tech." Riley smiled politely, but inside, a familiar emptiness gnawed at him. What good was changing the world if he had no one to share it with? Later that week, he finally returned his mother's call. "Riley?" His mother's voice was tight with emotion. "I saw her." His heart stopped. "Who?" "Ava. She was at the mall with a little girl." "Riley, she looked just like you." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "What are you saying?" "I think you have a daughter." The revelation shattered everything Riley thought he knew. A daughter. A child he had never known existed. A piece of himself and Ava, growing up without him. "How old?" he managed to ask, his voice barely audible. 9, maybe 10. The timeline matched perfectly. Ava must have discovered she was pregnant after he left. She had been raising their child alone all these years while he built his empire. The realization brought him to his knees. What had he done? Sometimes the universe has a way of forcing us to confront the consequences of our choices when we least expect it. A chance sighting, a random encounter, a blind date arranged by well-meaning friends who have no idea they're about to trigger an avalanche of truth that's been buried for years. What secrets might be waiting to surface in your own life? Every story we share is a gift. But gifts deserve acknowledgement. If you've made it this far without subscribing, what more do you need? Our loyal subscribers are already sharing this video with friends who appreciate quality content. Which side are you on? Non-subscribers. We're waiting for your explanation in the comments. "I need to find her," Riley told Nora the next morning, pacing his office like a caged animal. "Find who?" Nora asked, concerned by her boss's uncharacteristic agitation. "Ava Sinclair and—" He swallowed hard, the word still foreign on his tongue. "My daughter." Nora's eyebrows shot up, but she quickly composed herself. "I'll see what I can do." It took less than a day for Nora to compile a file on Ava's life. Creative director at Wynn Marketing, homeowner in the suburbs, mother to Sophia Sinclair, age 9. Riley stared at the school photo of Sophia, his heart constricting. She had his eyes, his smile, the same determined set to her jaw. How had he not known? How had he convinced himself that leaving was the right choice? "What do you want me to do?" Nora asked gently, watching emotions play across Riley's face that she'd never seen in all their years working together. Riley closed the file, his decision made. "Nothing. I can't just barge back into their lives after all this time. I need to find the right way." For weeks, he wrestled with how to approach Ava. A letter? Too impersonal? Showing up at her door? Too intrusive. He needed something neutral, something that would give her the power to walk away if that's what she wanted. The solution came from an unexpected source. "You need to start dating again," his friend Rowan Blake told him over drinks. "All work and no play is making you even more insufferable than usual." "I'm not interested in dating," Riley replied flatly. "One date, that's all I'm asking. My wife's friend is smart, successful, and exactly your type." I don't have a type, Rowan laughed. Everyone has a type. Just say yes. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen was sitting across from him now in this upscale restaurant. Ava Sinclair, the woman he had never stopped loving, looking at him with a mixture of shock, pain, and fury. A daughter? Riley repeated, his voice barely audible over the ambient restaurant noise. We have a daughter? Ava's eyes flashed. We don't have anything, Riley. I have a daughter, Sophia. She's 9 years old, brilliant, kind, and has never once asked why her father abandoned her before she was even born. Riley felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. I didn't know, Ava, you have to believe me. I had no idea you were pregnant. Would it have mattered? She challenged, her voice trembling with emotion. You left without a word. 7 words in a note, Riley. After everything we were to each other. I thought I was doing the right thing, he said, running a hand through his hair. I had nothing to offer you then. No money, no stability, just big dreams and bigger risks. I convinced myself you deserved better. That wasn't your decision to make, Ava said, her voice breaking. We were partners. We were supposed to face everything together. The weight of his mistake crushed down on Riley. 10 years lost. A daughter who didn't know him. The love of his life, sitting across from him like a stranger. Who set this up? He asked suddenly. My friend Casey. She said her husband's friend needed to get out more. Ava's eyes widened with realization. Rowan. Rowan Blake is your friend? Riley nodded. But he had no idea about our history. This is coincidence? Or fate, Ava whispered, then immediately shook her head. No, I don't believe in fate anymore. I believe in choices, and you made yours a decade ago. Ava, please, Riley leaned forward, his eyes pleading. Give me a chance to explain, to make things right. Make things right? She repeated incredulously. How exactly do you plan to make up for 10 years of absence? I don't know, he admitted. But I want to try. I want to meet my daughter. I want to be part of her life, part of both your lives, if you'll let me. Ava stood up, gathering her purse. I need time to think. This is overwhelming. Of course, Riley said quickly. Take all the time you need, but please, Ava, don't shut me out completely. Not again. Again? She laughed bitterly. That's rich. Coming from you? She placed a business card on the table. Call me tomorrow. We need to discuss how to handle this with Sophia. She's what matters now. As Ava walked away, Riley remained frozen in his seat, the business card between his fingers feeling like both a lifeline and a ticking bomb. We often imagine reunions as moments of instant healing, of time collapsing and wounds magically closing. But real reconciliation is messier, more complicated. It requires facing the pain we've caused, acknowledging that some damage can never be undone. Have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone after it was broken? Did you find that the hardest part wasn't earning their forgiveness but forgiving yourself? Just like Ava and Riley reconnected, you can connect with our community right now. But unlike them, you don't have to wait years, just one click. Still watching without subscribing? What would it take to convince you? Tell us below what's holding you back while others are already enjoying exclusive content. The next morning, Ava sat at her kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. She hadn't slept. How could she? Her past had collided with her present in the most unexpected way possible. Mom, are you okay? Sophia stood in the doorway, already dressed for school, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Ava forced a smile. Of course, sweetie, just thinking about work. Sophia studied her mother's face with a perceptiveness that sometimes took Ava's breath away. You look sad. Not sad, Ava said, standing to kiss her daughter's forehead. Just processing some big news. Good news or bad news? Ava hesitated. Complicated news. But nothing for you to worry about. After dropping Sophia at school, Ava sat in her car, staring at her phone. Riley had texted 3 times already. Can we meet today? I haven't stopped thinking about last night. I want to make this right, Ava. Please. With trembling fingers, she finally called him. Ava, he answered immediately. Thank you for calling. We need to talk about Sophia, she said, keeping her voice steady. She doesn't know anything about you, Riley. Not your name, not what you look like. Nothing except that her father left before she was born. I understand, Riley said softly. How do you want to handle this? Carefully, Ava replied. She's at a vulnerable age. I won't let her get hurt. I would never hurt her, Riley promised. Or you. Not again. Ava closed her eyes, fighting against the emotions his voice stirred within her. Meet me at Riverside Park at noon. We'll talk then. The park was quiet on a weekday, just a few mothers with strollers and elderly couples on benches. Ava spotted Riley immediately, standing by the fountain in a casual sweater and jeans that made him look more like the boy she had fallen in love with than the billionaire CEO he had become. Thank you for meeting me, he said as she approached. Ava nodded, keeping a careful distance between them. I've been thinking all night about how to handle this. And? I think we should take it slow. Very slow. I'll tell Sophia that I've reconnected with an old friend from college, and that he'd like to meet her. Nothing about you being her father. Not yet. Riley's face fell slightly, but he nodded. Whatever you think is best. I just want a chance to know her. Why now, Riley? Ava asked, the question that had been burning inside her. You've been successful for years. Why didn't you try to find me before? Riley looked away, shame evident in his expression. I convinced myself it was too late, that you'd moved on, found someone better, that you'd hate me for leaving. And the longer I waited, the harder it became to imagine coming back into your life. I did hate you, Ava admitted, for a long time, but then Sophia became my world, and I didn't have the energy for hate anymore. She's beautiful, Riley said. From the photo I saw. She looks like you. She has your eyes, Ava said softly. And your stubborn determination. A small smile touched Riley's lips. When can I meet her? This weekend. I'll have her home from her friend's house by 3. You can come over for an hour. Just as my friend, remember? I'll remember, Riley promised. And Ava? Thank you. I know I don't deserve this chance. As she walked away, Ava wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. There's something profoundly human about giving second chances, even when every logical part of us screams not to. We do it not because people deserve them, but because sometimes we need to see if healing is possible. What second chance have you given that surprised you with its outcome? Or what second chance do you wish you had offered when you had the chance? This crisis moment isn't just for Ava and Riley, it's for viewers who consume without contributing. Our subscribers understand the value of community. They're liking and commenting right now. Are you still silently watching? What's your justification? Drop it in the comments while others are actively supporting content they love. Saturday arrived with a knot of anxiety in Ava's stomach. She had told Sophia that an old college friend was coming to visit, someone special from her past. Is he your boyfriend? Sophia had asked with the directness of a 9-year-old. No, Ava had answered quickly. Just an old friend I haven't seen in a long time. The doorbell rang at exactly 3 o'clock. Ava took a deep breath before opening it. Riley stood on her porch, a wrapped gift in his hands, looking as nervous as she felt. Come in, she said, stepping aside. Riley entered the modest but comfortable home, his eyes taking in the family photos on the walls, the children's books on the shelves, the evidence of the life he had missed. Sophia, Ava called. Our guest is here. Sophia appeared from her bedroom, curious but shy. She stopped when she saw Riley, her head tilting slightly as she studied him. Hello, Sophia, Riley said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm Riley. I was a good friend of your mom's in college. Hi, Sophia replied, moving closer to her mother. Riley brought you something, Ava encouraged gently. Riley knelt down to Sophia's level, offering the package. Your mom told me you like science. Sophia's eyes lit up as she unwrapped the gift, a high-quality telescope with a star mapping program. Wow, she exclaimed. This is amazing. Mom, can we set it up tonight? Of course, Ava smiled, touched by Riley's thoughtful choice. I used to love stargazing when I was your age, Riley said. Maybe I could show you some of my favorite constellations sometime. Sophia nodded enthusiastically, her initial shyness fading. Do you know about the Pleiades? They're my favorite. The Seven Sisters, Riley smiled. They're beautiful. I have a telescope at my place too, much bigger than this one. Really? How big? As Riley described his observatory-grade telescope, Ava watched the interaction with a mixture of joy and pain. This was what Sophia had missed all these years. A father who shared her interests, who could nurture her curious mind in ways Ava couldn't. The hour passed quickly, with Sophia gradually warming up to Riley, showing him her science fair medals and explaining her current project on solar energy. You're incredibly smart, Riley told her, pride evident in his voice, just like your mom. When it was time for Riley to leave, Sophia surprised both adults by giving him a quick hug. Will you come back sometime to help with the telescope? Riley looked at Ava, silently asking permission. We'll arrange something, Ava said carefully. After Sophia had gone to her room, Riley lingered at the door. She's amazing, Ava. You've done an incredible job raising her. She is amazing, Ava agreed. And yes, I have. I'd like to see her again, regularly, if that's okay. Ava hesitated. We need to be careful, Riley. She's already getting attached to you and she doesn't even know who you really are. When can we tell her the truth? He asked. I don't know yet. Let's see how the next few visits go. As Riley drove away from the small suburban house, his heart felt fuller than it had in a decade. He had a daughter, a brilliant, beautiful daughter who had his eyes and Ava's smile. And for the first time in years, he felt like he might have a chance to reclaim what he had foolishly thrown away. But fate had other plans. The most precious connections in our lives often hang by the thinnest threads. A single conversation, a moment of truth, a decision made in haste. Any of these can strengthen those threads or sever them completely. What threads in your own life are you taking for granted? What connections deserve more of your attention before it's too late? As this story reaches its conclusion, ask yourself, have you done your part? Subscribers who like, comment, and share are the reason these stories continue. Those who take without giving back are why many creators quit. Which impact do you want to have? If you're still refusing to subscribe, we deserve to know why. Tell us below. The next few weeks established a cautious routine. Riley would visit on weekends, sometimes taking Sophia to science museums or planetariums, always with Ava present. Sophia blossomed under the attention, eagerly sharing her thoughts and ideas with Riley, who listened with genuine interest and encouragement. She talks about him constantly, Ava confided to her friend Casey over coffee. Riley said this, Riley knows that. It's like she's making up for 10 years of not having a father figure. Is that such a bad thing? Casey asked, stirring her latte thoughtfully. He seems to genuinely care about her. That's what scares me, Ava admitted, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. What if he disappears again? Sophia would be devastated. Do you think he will? Ava sighed, the question weighing on her more than she wanted to admit. I don't know. The Riley I knew wouldn't have left in the first place. Meanwhile, Riley was facing challenges of his own. James Tech was in the middle of a critical merger negotiation that required his full attention. The company he had built from nothing was at a crossroads, with competitors circling and investors growing nervous. The board is calling for an emergency meeting, Nora informed him one morning, her usually calm demeanor betraying concern. The Nakamura deal is falling apart. Riley frowned, glancing at his calendar. Reschedule my afternoon appointments. This takes priority. All of them? Nora asked, her eyes flicking to the note she'd added herself. Even your personal appointment? Riley had planned to take Sophia to an engineering workshop for kids that afternoon. He hesitated, torn between the responsibilities that had defined his life for a decade and the new ones he was just beginning to understand. No, not that one. I'll be back in time. But the board meeting ran long, with tensions rising as shareholders expressed concerns about the company's direction. By the time Riley checked his watch, he was already 30 minutes late. He called Ava, apologizing profusely. I'm so sorry. The meeting went longer than expected. I'm leaving now. She's been waiting by the window for an hour, Riley, Ava said, disappointment evident in her voice. She was so excited about this workshop. I'll make it up to her, I promise. When he finally arrived, nearly an hour late, Sophia refused to come out of her room. She thinks you forgot about her, Ava explained, arms crossed defensively. I didn't forget, Riley insisted. Work just took priority, Ava finished for him. Some things never change, do they? The accusation stung because Riley knew it contained a kernel of truth. Hadn't he left Ava all those years ago because he prioritized his ambitions over their relationship? That's not fair, he said quietly. I'm trying, Ava. Trying isn't enough when it comes to children, Riley. They need consistency, reliability. You can't just show up when it's convenient for you. Riley ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I know that. But I'm running a company with thousands of employees who depend on me. I can't just walk away from my responsibilities. And what about your responsibility to Sophia? Ava challenged. The one you've neglected for 9 years? The argument escalated, old wounds reopening as they both said things they immediately regretted. Neither noticed Sophia standing in the hallway, listening to every word, until they heard her small voice. You're my dad? They turned to find Sophia staring at them, her eyes wide with shock and confusion. Sophia, Ava began, moving toward her daughter. Is it true? Sophia demanded, looking directly at Riley. Are you my father? Riley swallowed hard, then nodded. Yes, Sophia, I am. Why did you leave us? The simple question, asked with a child's directness, cut through all the adult justifications and excuses. I made a mistake, Riley admitted, kneeling to her level. The biggest mistake of my life. I thought I was doing what was best, but I was wrong. Tears filled Sophia's eyes. Did you not want me? No, sweetheart, Riley said, his own eyes welling up. I didn't know about you. If I had, I never would have stayed away. You have to believe that. Sophia looked between her parents, confusion and hurt evident on her face. I want to be alone, she said finally, turning and running back to her room. The sound of her door slamming echoed through the house. I think you should go, Ava said quietly. Ava, please. Not now, Riley. She needs time to process this. We both do. As Riley drove back to his empty penthouse, he realized that all his success, all his wealth and power, meant nothing if he couldn't be there for the people who mattered most. Something had to change. Children have an uncanny ability to cut through our adult pretenses and expose the truth we try to hide even from ourselves. Their questions come without the filters we develop, striking directly at our most vulnerable points. When was the last time someone's simple question made you confront a truth you'd been avoiding? How did you respond? If you're already part of our family, hit that like button now. It takes just 1 second but helps us reach thousands more. Not subscribed yet? Ask yourself why you're holding back from stories that could change your perspective forever. Still refusing? Tell us why in the comments. We're genuinely curious what's stopping you. The following days were the hardest of Riley's life. Sophia refused to see him, and Ava would only communicate through brief, formal texts. Meanwhile, the crisis at James Tech escalated as the Nakamura deal collapsed entirely, sending the company's stock plummeting. The board is calling for an emergency session, Nora informed him. There's talk of replacing you as CEO. Any other time, this news would have devastated Riley. Now, it barely registered. Schedule it for tomorrow morning. And the investors from Singapore? Reschedule. Nora studied her boss with concern. Riley, what's going on? You've worked too hard to let everything fall apart now. Riley looked up from his desk, a new clarity in his eyes. I already let everything fall apart once, Nora. I won't make the same mistake again. That night, he worked until dawn, not on saving his company, but on a different kind of proposal altogether. The next morning, he walked into the boardroom where the directors waited, expressions grim. Before you say anything, Riley began, I want to present an alternative vision for James Tech's future. He outlined a bold restructuring plan, one that would allow the company to maintain its innovative edge while creating a more sustainable work-life balance for all employees, starting with himself. I'm proposing to step back from day-to-day operations, he concluded. I'll remain as chairman, but I want to appoint Nora Ellis as the new CEO. Shocked murmurs filled the room. This is highly irregular, one board member protested. So is building a billion-dollar company from nothing, Riley countered. Nora has been by my side through every challenge. She knows this company as well as I do, and she has the vision to take it further. And what will you do? Another director asked skeptically. Riley smiled. I'm going to focus on what really matters. My family. After the meeting, Nora followed Riley to his office. Are you sure about this? More sure than I've been about anything in 10 years, he replied, clearing out his desk. The company will thrive under your leadership, Nora. Probably better than it did under mine. What about the Nakamura deal? Approach them with the new sustainability initiative we discussed last month. They care more about long-term vision than quarterly profits. As Riley prepared to leave the office that had been his second home for a decade, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. For the first time since he'd left Ava, he felt like he was making the right choice. Now he just had to convince Ava and Sophia of that. We often define success by external metrics, wealth, status, power, only to discover too late that true success lies in the relationships we build and nurture. What would change in your life if you redefined success right now? What priorities would shift if you measured your worth not by what you achieve, but by who you love and how well you love them? Imagine pouring your heart into content only to have viewers take without giving back. That's how creators feel when you don't subscribe. Our community members understand this. They're commenting right now. What's your excuse? If you're still refusing to join us, at least have the courage to explain why below. Ava was surprised to find Riley on her doorstep the following afternoon, holding a thick folder and looking more relaxed than she had seen him in years. Can we talk? He asked. It's important. Reluctantly, she let him in. Sophia's at her friend's house. I know, Riley said. I wanted to speak with you first. They sat at the kitchen table, the same one where they had once drafted business plans and dreamed of their future together. I stepped down as CEO of James Tech yesterday, Riley said without preamble. Ava's eyes widened. What? Why? Because I finally realized what matters, he replied simply. The company was consuming my life just like my ambition consumed our relationship 10 years ago. I don't want to make that mistake again. Riley, your company is your life's work. No, he shook his head. Sophia is my life's work, or she should have been. And you, Ava. The life we could have built together. He slid the folder across the table. This is my proposal. Inside were legal documents transferring a significant portion of his wealth into a trust for Sophia, along with a detailed plan for how he wanted to be involved in her life, school events he would attend, holidays he wanted to share, summer trips he hoped they could take as a family. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Riley said quietly. I know I don't deserve it. But I am asking for a chance to be the father Sophia deserves and the partner I should have been to you. Ava stared at the documents, emotions warring within her. You can't just walk back into our lives and expect everything to fall into place, Riley. Life doesn't work that way. I know, he nodded. I'm prepared to work for this, Ava, for as long as it takes. I've rented a house just 10 minutes from here. I've restructured my entire life to prioritize Sophia. And you, if you'll let me. And what happens when the next big business opportunity comes along? Ava challenged. When some exciting new venture tempts you away again? That's not going to happen, Riley said firmly. I've learned my lesson in the hardest possible way. Nothing, no amount of success or money, is worth losing the people you love. Before Ava could respond, the front door opened and Sophia walked in, stopping short when she saw Riley. Hi, she said cautiously. Hi, Sophia, Riley replied, his voice gentle. I was hoping we could talk. Sophia looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner who I really am, Riley began. And I'm even more sorry that I wasn't there for the first 9 years of your life. Why did you leave? Sophia asked, the question that had been haunting her. Riley took a deep breath. I thought I needed to become successful before I could be with your mom. I thought I wasn't good enough as I was. It was the biggest mistake of my life, and I've regretted it every day since. Did you know about me? No, Riley said honestly. I didn't know your mom was pregnant when I left. If I had known, I would have stayed. Or I would have come back as soon as I found out. Sophia considered this, her young face serious. Are you going to leave again? Never, Riley promised. In fact, I've changed my whole life so I can be near you. I've stepped down from running my company. I've moved closer. I want to be at your science fairs and your birthdays. I want to help with your homework and take you stargazing. I want to be your dad, Sophia, if you'll let me. Sophia looked at her mother. Mom? Ava's eyes were filled with tears. It's your decision, sweetheart. Whatever you want. Sophia turned back to Riley. I think I'd like to try, but slowly. Riley nodded, his own eyes wet. Slowly sounds perfect. The most profound transformations often happen not in grand, dramatic moments, but in quiet decisions made when no one is watching. Riley's choice to step down wasn't just about Sophia and Ava. It was about becoming the man he always should have been. What quiet decision might be waiting for you to make? What transformation is your soul quietly calling for? Over the following months, they established a new routine. Riley would come for dinner 3 times a week. He attended Sophia's science fair, beaming with pride as she won first place. He helped her build an advanced solar panel for her next project. Slowly, cautiously, they began to form a bond. Ava watched this developing relationship with mixed emotions. She couldn't deny the joy it brought Sophia to have her father in her life. And she couldn't deny the feelings that still stirred within her when Riley was near. One evening, after Sophia had gone to bed, Riley and Ava sat on the porch swing, the same one where they had once dreamed of their future. She's thriving, Ava observed. Her teacher says she's more confident, more engaged. She's extraordinary, Riley agreed. You did an amazing job raising her, Ava. We still have a long way to go, Ava cautioned. Trust takes time to rebuild. I know, Riley nodded. And I'm prepared to spend the rest of my life earning back your trust, both of you. He reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him take it. I never stopped loving you, he confessed. Even when I convinced myself I was doing the right thing by leaving, I never stopped. Ava looked at their intertwined fingers. I tried to stop loving you. For years, I tried. But then I'd look at Sophia and see your eyes, your smile. And I couldn't. Riley gently turned her face toward his. I'm not asking for everything to go back to how it was. We're different people now. But maybe we could start again? Build something new, something better? Ava studied his face, the face she had once known better than her own. Slowly, she whispered. Slowly, he agreed, and leaned forward to place a gentle kiss on her forehead. 6 months later, Sophia stood between her parents at the observatory Riley had built in their new backyard, peering through the telescope at the night sky. The Pleiades are so clear tonight, she exclaimed. The 7 sisters, Riley smiled, his arm around Ava's waist. Did you know that in some cultures they represent family? Really? Sophia looked up with interest. Really, Ava confirmed. A family that stays together no matter what challenges come their way. As they stood together under the stars, Riley knew that all his success, all his achievements, paled in comparison to this moment. He had finally found his way home. Love isn't always about finding the perfect person. Sometimes it's about giving an imperfect person a perfect chance to make things right. Second chances aren't guaranteed. They're gifts we choose to give. What relationship in your life might deserve a second chance? What healing might be possible if you open that door? A powerful closing engagement prompt for you. If you've made it to the end of this emotional journey, you're clearly someone who values meaningful stories. Don't keep this experience to yourself. Hit subscribe now to join our community of thoughtful viewers. Already subscribed? Show your support by liking and sharing this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Still watching without subscribing? We'd genuinely like to know why. Tell us in the comments what's holding you back. Your engagement is what allows us to continue bringing these powerful stories to life.